Hey, I'm Matt Noveskey. I'm the bass player for Blue October and co-owner and resident producer at Orb Recording Studios in Austin, Texas. And you are watching DrumChats TV.
Hey everyone, this is Travis with DrumChats. I'm at the Orb Recording Studios in Austin, Texas with the man with a plan, Matt Noveskey of Blue October. Matt, thanks for chatting with us.
Thank you. I like that. I'm going to use that. That's going to be my new. That's just going to be my new title from now on.
Yeah.
What do you do? I have a plan.
That's the tagline. Bass player for Blue October, co-owner of Orb Recording Studios.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just start from the beginning a little bit. Where did Blue October start? How long you guys been playing? And I know you just got off of the Europe tour.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about a little behind the scenes stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
what got you to where you are right now?
What got us to where we are, the Cliff Notes version of that is just I guess putting your putting everything that you have into your craft and not compromising.
Yeah.
That's what got us to where we were, or where we are. Sorry. I think that we learned a lot by making a lot of mistakes when we were younger.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately we came into the scene and became a legit label band, I guess, at a time where things were just starting to really change, and this whole like big transition was sort of happening in the music industry. Streaming wasn't a thing yet, but it was almost there.
Yeah.
And then Napster was a brand new thing, and all these things were happening, and we learned so much when we were young and watching all that happen that it really just kind of taught us a lot of life lessons, and taught us a lot of things about the music industry, and just down to details about how to treat people with respect, and how to build relationships and appreciate the things that you have. You know?
Right.
And but throughout that we've gone to the big label, to On Our Own, to back to the big label, to On Our Own again. And so throughout the course of that, it's just like with any business, it's like you take all those things that you've learned and you go, okay, if I'm going to do this on my own again, let's do it right.
Right.
And let's not make the same mistakes again, and let's stay true to the art, but let's really try to get a firm grasp on how we can get our music out there and have integrity, but still treat this as a business. And be smart about it. We've been a band a long time. The band formed. I joined after the band was together for about 2 years.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Well, a lot of people, I guess people say the original, or that I'm the OG bass player or whatever, but I've just been around the longest.
Yeah.
And the band had Liz, the original bass player, was with him in the very beginning. And awesome girl, by the way, friend of mine, friend of all of ours. And it just wasn't there, it just didn't work out for whatever reason. And I came along at the end of '98, and I think that the band had been playing out for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years at that point.
Yeah.
Had put out one independent record, and I joined, and I got really lucky because I took a big chance, and I saw something special, and I saw Justin as a front man, and I was like, yep, you don't see that every day.
Yeah.
I got to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And so I packed up my Volkswagen, and I moved down from Michigan, and my parents thought I was out of my mind, and and I was just like leaving everything behind to give this a shot, because all I cared about was music.
Right.
And I took a big chance doing it, and 6 months later we signed with Universal.
Okay.
So it was like,
wow.
like, hey, all of you,
Yeah.
So that was cool. But then I think not even a year later, it's like the album tanked. We got dropped.
Oh gosh.
And that's when all those hard life lessons start coming into play.
Yeah.
But instead of doing, I was actually scrolling through Instagram last night, and I got really nostalgic because I was looking at, I'm a big Stone Temple Pilots fan, and I love Jeff, the new singer. I think he's so good. I think he's a perfect fit for the band, so I've been really keeping up with them and their new album, which is really good. And they're doing this tour. They just announced this tour with them and The Cult and Bush. And I was like, yes, I love this. I love seeing bands from were very influential, that were like when we were just starting to do our thing, that were super, like, they were the bands, they were in their prime.
Right.
And they're still out there, and they're still, like, a lot of the original members, and they're still doing their thing, and they're staying strong, and they're touring, and they haven't thrown in the towel, when so many bands have.
Yeah.
And we, a lot of times we will just be on the road and be like, oh, do you remember that band? Do you remember so-and-so? Do you remember that one tour? And it's like 98% of those bands are not together anymore.
Yeah.
And they're all like working retail or whatever they're doing now,
Right.
or they have businesses and they're doing their thing, and that's cool. But it's to me, I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, well, this was a result of the changes in the music industry. And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a cop-out. I think that's kind of lame,
Okay.
because to me, yeah, things changed, and maybe things didn't necessarily go your way, but things didn't go our way either.
Sure.
And we're still doing it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't always easy. We did a lot of things that I work with a lot of bands, and they ask, so how do I get this going? I'm like, well, be prepared to be broke for a long time.
Yeah. Right.
Be prepared to make new friends and sleep on their floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we did that for years and years and years, and we earned it.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't quit, and we didn't just say, screw this, the business isn't matching our model. We just stuck to our model until it started to make sense to everybody else.
Right. So. Yeah. That. As soon as you said, I think that's a cop-out. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, a lot of those bands cut out. I was listening to Sugar Cult the other day.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I was reading up on their history, and it said from this time to this time. And I thought about it, I was like, some of these guys reach incredible highs, and then they're just gone.
Very quickly. Yeah.
And it may have been a case where it's like, oh, we split, I did a solo project. But the cop-out thing, I think, is a great take on that, is to say, well, the industry's changing, nobody's listening to this anymore. It's like, okay, adapt. Like,
yeah, exactly. And to me, I hate the whole sophomore slump term. I can't stand that. And to me, it's like when we put out Foiled, which was our big album, that was the album that really broke through to the masses for us back in 2006.
Yeah.
And it was a major label album, and blah 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 blah. And it was a great album, and it did well, and it put us in a great position where we could go bring in this big producer and spend a lot of money making this record, and do it in a very old school kind of big label way. But the album didn't perform. The next album didn't perform well.
Yeah.
And it didn't sell well, and it would have been really easy for us to just be pissed.
Sure.
And just be like, oh, well, this didn't sell well because it's like, who cares? It didn't sell well. It didn't sell well. Go make another album that will.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then make another album that will. But just keep at it.
Yeah.
And stick to your guns and do what you know is best for you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things about the band, about all of us as individuals and as a group and as a team and a family, that like Ryan, Jeremy, Justin, and I, the four of us have been through so much together.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I'm most proud of, is that we, as a group, have endured and weathered all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's cool, and I think that sets bands apart. Like, Switchfoot just went on a temporary hiatus after 20 years.
Yeah.
And the same guys. And that's a long time. Like,
great guys, man.
Yeah.
We toured with them, and they're
yeah,
such good dudes.
Yeah,
perfect example of a band that, like, I have a daughter. I have a 10-year-old daughter, right? And every once in a while I meet and work with somebody, I'm like, that's the kind of guy that I would want my daughter to marry.
Yeah.
Every one of the guys in that band are the kind of guy you want your daughter to marry. They're all just good people.
Yeah.
And it says, I think that bleeds into the music, and I think it bleeds into your success as a band. If you got to take a hiatus, you got to take a hiatus. But I guarantee it's just a hiatus.
Yeah, for sure. And not to go on a tangent, but I've met John a couple times in the band themselves, and John actually wrote this tattoo for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
But he, like he said, like there can be this just kind of this image that I think a lot of guys set on stage, and then they're very different off.
Oh,
and they're a great example to me. Like, I walked straight up to him and just said, hey, I just want to say hi. It's good to meet you. Thanks for what you do. And that sets bands apart, where bands can, they're reachable, and
sure.
And they do have families, and they go grocery shopping, But like you said, making that, you know, with your families and just being somebody who's, you stuck by it with your brothers and
totally. It's easy. I think it's just human nature, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't go through this phase at first as well.
Yeah.
You know, but it's really easy when things start to go well, and everybody's kissing your ass, to believe it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
definitely.
really easy for that to become, you know, oh well, I really, you know, maybe I really am special. You know, it's like you're not special. You know, it's like you may be talented, but the world is full of talented people. You're just very blessed because you're able to share that gift with people, and people are actually listening.
Yeah.
You know, I think that with those guys, one of the things that I love is none of them let their egos get in the way.
Yeah.
And they have every right to.
For sure.
You know, it's like they've earned that stature, they've earned that status, but they don't act like it.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you said. When they're off stage, they're just normal dudes.
Yeah.
Egos in check.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Well, let's go from that and let's start talking about some drums. The cool thing about drums, we've talked with Travis Kennedy, who you know, we talked with Garrett Goodwin. I'm totally blanking on everybody else, but we've gotten different perspectives from a drummer's perspective, an engineer's perspective. We've interviewed DJ Cheney, so getting views on drums from the sampling world. And now I think it's really important as a drummer myself to talk about from the bass perspective.
Sure.
The bass players that I play with are always locking in on my kick drum or seeing what I'm doing with my snare and tying those two in. And so I thought it'd be great to chat with you about bass and drums and how important those two things are. And in fact, we're interviewing your drummer Jeremy tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about you and Jeremy for a sec.
Let's talk some smack.
Yeah.
Since I get to go first.
There you go. Sorry, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Whether you're in the studio or live, how does Jeremy's drums, how does that play into what you're playing? Or let's talk live for a sec. When he's playing, how much of him is in your mix? How important is what he's playing to what you're playing? What's your take on between your relationship with him and yourself?
The relationship between the bass player and the drummer is critical. It's critical. It's crucial. It's so important. I feel like one of the things that you see a lot of with bands that have a revolving door of musicians, or they have fill-in musicians, and they have people that jump in. If you have a great technical, amazing bass player, same thing with drums, but they don't have any chemistry, the show suffers.
Yeah.
It absolutely suffers. And anybody, whether they realize it's happening or not, picks up. They pick up on that and they hear it.
Sure.
And the flip side of that is if you have, even if just technically they're not that proficient, but they have a great groove and they have a great chemistry, that can just bring the show to life.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the backbone, that's the spine of the entire performance right there.
Yeah.
So that chemistry to me is so important. It's everything. Back to Instagram, I was looking at Robert DeLeo from SDP. I was looking at his Instagram, and he had a picture of him and the drummer from The Doors, and he said something about, you know, a drummer is a bass player's best friend, and you know, a drummer and a bass player are family. You know, and that's so true, man. It's like I'm really, really blessed because I have a group of drummers that I play with regularly that are all very different from one another, but are all so good and have their own style and their own thing going on. And I get to jam with these guys, and I get to improv jam with some of them and do a lot of cool things. And it helps me grow as a bass player, and it helps me with my craft.
Yeah.
And nothing against guitar players, you know, nothing against, you know, horn players and singers. But I can't sit down and just jam for 3 hours with a guitar player.
Yeah.
I can sit down and jam all day with a drummer. You know, it's like just me and a drummer.
Yeah.
And the thing, you know, the cool thing with Jeremy is that Jeremy and I, you know, we have a really cool bond as friends and as family, which bleeds into that whole thing.
Yeah.
We've been through some things as a band where Jeremy and I really relied on each other a lot and communicated a lot, and I think that just like anything in life, if you sort of, you know, if you go through something traumatic, or you go through something that's really kind of tests you and makes you wonder if you're even going to be a band or you're going to have this relationship anymore.
Yeah.
That can only make you stronger if you survive that. You
Right.
come out the other end. And not to sound overly dramatic, but that's literally what we went through. And Jeremy and I became a lot closer through that process.
Yeah.
And I think that really helped our relationship as a bass player and a drummer as well. I feel like it
Sure.
tightened us up as a rhythm section. It made us listen to each other more, and it made us appreciate each other more. And we had these little moments in the set. And some of them we've never even talked about.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Like, he and I have never even acknowledged off stage that we have these moments. But we have these regular things that we do. Like, there's the beginning of the song Fear. If he and I don't make eye contact, don't give each other a little smile or a little wink before that song starts, the song's going to sound like crap. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
you know?
that's the thing.
And we're not going to lock in. But that's sort of our, hey, you know, we're about halfway through the show, like, what's up?
Yeah.
We got each other.
Locking in. How would you said in your mix that you've got kick and snare as two of the highest volumes. How would you describe that for to help with drummers and bass players who are watching, anybody else who are wondering, okay, how can the drums help me as a guitarist play? What is your reasoning for having kick and snare so high in your mix? What does that do for you when you're playing?
For me to be able to really hear the kick and the snare, it's all about space, and it's all about. I reference Aston Barrett a lot and reggae music in general because it's more about the length of the note. It's about how he's coming off the note, not necessarily the entrance of the bass note. You know. But it's to me, like, that's a style of music that's very underrated as far as bass and drums go, and it's very, like, a lot of people don't realize how tough it is.
Yeah.
You know, but between the kick, the big fat kick drum, and that poppy cracky snare, there's space, and regardless of what's happening on the hat or the ride or the crash or nothing, the way that the bass fits in there is so important and so crucial. So to me, I really need to hear what's happening between the kick and the snare so I know how to complement it right.
Okay.
I know what to do. I'm not just, you know, we're a rock band, but we're also a pop rock band.
Yeah.
And with that, we explore a lot of different styles of music, and so we even get into some stuff that's really funky, and we get into stuff that's very groove-based. This new record has a lot of songs that are very bass and drum heavy.
Yeah.
Not many guitar things happening at all.
Okay.
And a lot of strings up top, you know. So
Okay.
when that's happening, it's really important that I know that I'm not just hitting the root and I'm not just laying it down with the kick drum, and that's okay for some songs, and that's what it calls for. That's what it needs. But for me, the snare is just as important.
Yeah.
I have to hear the placement. I have to hear where it's okay for me to do certain things and where it's not.
Yeah. Okay. I think that can, like, would you say that when you say that the snare helps you figure out what you need to do or when, would you say that means, like, whether or not you're in full-time or half-time, and how that would affect, like, because you can hear the kick, and you can be in full-time, and you can hear the same kick and no snare, and you could be in half-time.
That will dictate whether I'm going to drive, you know, a lot of times it'll even dictate the way I'm playing the bass, if I'm using fingers or a pick, you know, or
Okay.
Because to me it's like, okay, should I do, you know, a drive eighth note, you know, with a pick, with, you know, that plex sound, or should I do something just whole note?
Yeah.
You know, big and fat, use my fingers, maybe roll the tone off.
Yeah.
That has a lot to do with, it's not just the kick drum, and it has a lot to do with the relationship between the kick and the snare and what the space is.
Yeah. That's awesome. I never really thought about that, because, like, when I play with my bass players, Chris or Julian, they always lock into what my kick is doing, but I never think about the relationship with the snare to the bass and how that can not only help you lock in, but even just the feel and the atmosphere that you're setting.
Oh, for sure.
I think that's a really great outlook I never even thought about. And going with that, with Jeremy and how that's playing with your bass, and really focusing in on how those drums play a part in how you play. How do you feel that if the drums were to go out completely, say something crazy happens to Jeremy's mic snake, and he's out, and you can't hear him.
You got to keep the song going.
What do you do? Yeah.
Well,
because that happens.
I mean, look, all kinds of weird things happen, especially when when the show grows, the production grows.
Yeah.
And when the production grows, room for error grows. And when that happens, we've had some crazy moments. We've had festival shows where it's our time to go, and all of a sudden the tracks stop working.
Yeah.
The click goes out. Whatever happens. But part of the reason that you have that click as a guide and as a reference is for that very reason. If something happens and you can't hear somebody, you shouldn't lose your place. You should know where you're at.
Yeah.
And of course, visually, I can see what he's doing, and I can try to stay on with him. But if something like catastrophic happened, here's the beautiful thing. There are two types of bass player, in my opinion. There are failed guitarists, and there are bass players who play bass because it's in their heart and soul, and that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Not, hey, you're the weakest guitar player in the band. That has 4 strings. Go play it.
Yeah.
And so if you fall into that latter category, which I believe that I do, and I hope I do.
Yeah.
The way that I look at it is a lot of people say, why did you choose bass? Why bass? To me, it's because I get to play drums and guitar at the same time.
Okay.
I get to do both.
Put it. Yeah.
It's such a percussive instrument. The band calls me Seinfeld to joke around with me because I do a lot of slapping, especially during sound check and when I got to get it out. But to me, it's like that's Flea is such a great player, and he drew me into bass guitar and made me see it in a different way because of how percussive his playing is, and he knows how to choose his moments and do things in such an interesting way, and he knows how to push new boundaries with it. But he essentially is really playing drums on bass sometimes, and that's the way I look at it. Sometimes the note in the sustain of the note is secondary. It's more just about the attack, and it's more about the percussiveness of it. And the rhythm that you're creating. So I like to, growing up on Motown and being a big James Jamerson fan.
Nice.
I like to feel like I'm not just following the drums.
Yeah.
That I'm a part of it.
Yeah.
And that we're creating something together instead of, okay, I'm listening to what he's doing and I'm following along.
Right.
To me, that's not really my approach. My approach is more, okay, let's create this bed together.
Yeah.
And then again, that's why I have to hear kick and snare, and I have to hear what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he drops out or something happens, if I don't have the ability to create enough of a rhythmic bed in the band, who's going to do it?
Right.
I have to.
Yeah. That kind of defines your relationship with the drummer.
Mm-hmm.
And when people hear the term drum and bass, it's not just drum and bass. It's like, okay, these are very cohesive instruments.
For sure. Well, everybody has their own style, too.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing. Is going back to what I was saying earlier, is you can have somebody that's technically really proficient or somebody that's super groovy, just in the pocket, great drummer. And style-wise, if they're not necessarily like a true session player where they just go in and adapt to what's happening, but they have their own thing going on, sometimes the way that they complement a bass player and the way that the bass player complements them, it can be really good or it can just not work at all.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're not proficient players. They don't know what they're doing. It's just that their styles don't really match.
Yeah.
Or they do match.
Sure.
So I do a lot of, over the last year, I've been doing a lot more jamming, a lot more improv playing with other people just to keep my chops up. And,
sure.
And I feel like I'm kind of reached a point in my career where I don't want to plateau, and I don't want to just kind of, I'm just doing my,
Right.
I love to play. I'm a nerd. I'm a total dork about it. I have
Yeah.
the new issue of Bass Player in my backpack, and I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
I get giddy about it. But I'm kind of at this point where I'm looking back, and I'm like, I think I've been kind of lazy about my instrument the last few years. We play a lot of shows. Playing shows, you can go through the motions after a while. It's muscle memory.
Right.
I want to challenge myself. So I've been playing. I've been jamming with my brother, who's a fantastic drummer, by the way.
Cool.
And he has his own style. Like, I don't know another drummer in the world who plays like him.
Okay.
He has his own thing going on. So I've had to sort of train myself to learn all the idiosyncrasies and all the little intangible things that he does.
Yeah.
So that I can play well with him and we can create something really cool.
Yeah.
And being brothers, it's pretty natural.
Right.
We have pretty awesome chemistry, and
sure.
it's great. And I have a buddy, Alfonso Lovelace, another great drummer. He tours a lot. He does a lot of R&B stuff, and fantastic drummer. He was the runner-up in the Guitar Center Drum-Off a few years ago, nationally. So he's like, the guy's just incredible.
Yeah.
Gotten a jam with him a ton. It's the same thing. If he comes in and does a session, it's like we will literally wait till everybody's done and out of the building, and then instead of going home, it's, hey, we got an hour or two, let's go jam.
Yeah.
And we'll just go jam.
Yeah, man.
And then I've been playing bass on a lot of sessions too, and I've been, instead of just laying drums down and then doing bass, I've been trying to do more together live.
Sure.
And playing with this guy Chris Deggy, who used to play for Cody Canada, and he's doing a lot of sessions with me now. Playing with all these different people in different styles, it makes you a better player.
Yeah.
I feel like if you just play with the same person over and over and over again your whole life, you can create some habits.
Sure.
And you can sort of